Hey everyone, welcome to Hungry People, home of the Hungry People podcast. Today I have with me Chantal from Canada. Chantal, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing. How are
You
you,
look amazing.
JJ?
I am
Thank you.
doing almost as good as you, not quite as good. I don't have the energy and the vitality you have yet. I'm working on
Maybe when you get to my age, you will.
it. Everyone watching should comment down below and guess your age because I think they're going to be blown away, and we'll reveal
Yeah,
it at the end of the video.
I get that all the time. I got that 2 weeks ago. It was like, what? No, this cannot be. What? I need a piece of ID. It was like, I'm like, yeah, I'm actually serious.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
always say that to people now when they guess me younger. I'm always like, I'm old enough that it means a lot to me that you guessed that I'm 20 or 22 or something.
Yeah, I guessed your age much younger as well, I think.
Yeah, I think you guessed I was like 25 and I'm 29.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, even like probably younger. I mean, your maturity level is
Mhm.
like way more, but you have such a baby face as well that I was like, I don't know, is this guy 23? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Comes in handy.
that's it. It's all good.
Cool. So, would you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself? Where you're from, what you're into, like what do you do for work, and kind of how you've gotten more into, we met through Dan's Patreon, the Life Regenerator. Yeah, how did you come to that point in your life?
Yeah, totally. Well, honestly, as far as I can remember, I was always into health and wellness. I can't go back to a time where I wasn't, even when I was like 12 years old, because I was raised with a mother and my mom still is very, very active. Um, my mom was always into sports. She was into fitness competitions. She would just like go all over the city and
What
the
kind of
province to
competitions?
compete. Just like aerobics and step and like all that kind of stuff, but like I'm talking crazy level of like
Oh
high
wow.
speed. I remember watching my mom practicing and thinking to myself, I don't even understand how she could possibly remember all of these steps and all of these moves and how can they move so fast.
Right.
And they would be competing against many, many different cities and they would win the titles all the time. But she was always into that. It was always about eating healthy. And we lived on the farm when I was younger,
Mm,
right next to a farm, basically. So really, really far out in the country.
right.
And we would go pick our own berries and she would send us, with jars and just go pick some blackberries and raspberries and strawberries and,
Wow.
the wild ones. Yeah.
Hmm.
And
So you
it
guys
was
had a good
always,
foundation coming up.
yeah, yeah, big time. It was very connected with nature. I was actually talking about this with my uncle, with my brother last weekend. And I said to my brother, I said, do you realize that we never had a babysitter? And he was like, holy shit, we never had a babysitter. I'm like,
Wow.
yeah, because we would literally spend our entire summers with my mom on a camping site every single summer. And we would just lock up the house and
Mm,
leave. And, it was just like, I don't know, I guess it's not a very typical way to grow up because all of my friends would be sent out to summer camps and things like that. And,
right.
the only people that ever babysat us was my grandmother or my aunts. And that was pretty much it, it was like,
Yeah.
so
That
we
was
always
this.
grew up in that setup. Yeah,
Yeah, that was the same for me. My aunt was my babysitter.
that's it.
Yeah. She took care of all the cousins. We were like 10 of us.
That's it. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's a very typical thing. Anyways, not
Right.
not here where I live in Canada. It's like everybody gets all the kids are getting sent out, somewhere.
Mm.
And so yeah, I mean, I've always been in track and field competitions since I was a kid.
What kind of track events were you in? I was in track.
Oh my God, I couldn't tell you. All I remember it was track and field at school.
Uh-huh.
And then we used to do things that were called cross countries.
Hmm.
I don't know if you guys had that where
Yeah, I
you
was in
just like
cross country and track. Yeah.
well, very, oh my God, AJ, that's it.
That's why we get along so well.
That's it. That's why our crazy minds get attuned. So yeah, track and field and stuff like that. And then when I was about 15. Yeah, when I was exactly 15, my mom bought me a gym membership as my birthday gift.
Hmm.
And then you had to go with a parent at the time, you know, I was not allowed to go by myself before 18 years old. And that's how it all started. And then I just started to get into fitness like a mad woman. And by 17 years old, I signed up to be a personal trainer and
Wow.
got certified. I don't mind telling my age. It's like one of those things women are like, ah, but
Right.
I'm 44. And so, you know, it's been a little while. I've been a personal trainer at this point. So that was my first real job, personal trainer at 17. And I used to teach all the
17.
classes.
Wow.
Yeah, aerobics, step, aqua, water, you know, whatever, like anything. I'll be like, I'll teach it. And I've been obsessed with it since that time. But I already knew in my heart that that's what I wanted to do when I was 17. And I was like, I'm going to be like a fitness trainer for the stars. And I'm going to be, and my mind was just like running wild. And then at some point, my dad was like, I'm not going to make you any money. You need to get a real job. And I think that's kind of like, I took a 25-year detour, you know, in my life.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because
What was the detour?
well, I had to go to school, you know,
Oh.
I had to go to school, right? I mean, even I was so passionate about being a trainer. I loved what I was doing.
Mhm.
And I just knew in my heart, it was very simple for me. There was no question that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to help people get healthier in some way. And obviously back then there was like, this is taking way back. There was no internet. There was no cell phones,
Mhm.
right? It was none of that. It was just like books and you had to go to a library.
What's a
So
book?
yeah, seriously, right? So it was just like whatever I could get my hands on, any training events, anything that I could go to, or I would study from some people in the gym that were like more experienced than I was, and it would teach me about injuries and things like that. I've just been basically obsessed with it. And then at some point I was like, well, I guess I need to get a real job.
Right.
And then this whole detour shit happened where you got to go to school just to go to school, but you don't have any clue what you want to do.
Right.
So I
Did you
started
get
doing
into debt
like,
and everything or no
oh my
because of it?
God, yes. Oh, yes. But over here, it's not as bad as you guys in the States, but
Hmm.
still, like, I'm like, oh, I'm going to go because we go from high school to CJEP and then from CJEP to university. So we don't go straight from high school to university.
Hmm.
We have to do what's called a CJEP, which is like a 2 to 3 year degree that you're going to
Okay.
specialize in something before you go to university.
Mm.
So I ended up going in fashion design because I used to model and I was like, okay, modeling and fashion design is really not the same thing. I was like, quit that. That's really boring. Then went off to work for a few years, random stuff, you know, in stores and whatever. And then went back to university doing my science degree because I wanted to go into medical school, only to realize that I can't stand this, you know, the look of blood, or I hate hospitals. So
Too sterile.
after a year of that, I'm like, I'm definitely not in the right field, but I want to help people. So it was just kind of like this thing, you know. And then at some point I went, you know, I was working as an accountant actually for a long time.
Oh, really? I
And
didn't know that.
yeah, for many years. And I just hated myself. Like I hated my job. I hated where I hated the fact that I had like basically given up on my dreams and who I really was.
Right.
And then I found yoga when I was about 20, 24 years old.
And
And
were
I
you
fell
going
in
to yoga for
love.
some reason, like kind of injury or anything, or you just stumbled upon it? For me, it was an
That's
injury.
an interesting stuff. Yeah, for me, actually, you know how sometimes life moves into you, it just moves onto you. I don't know how to say it, but
Right.
I think life took pity on me. They're like, yeah, she's definitely not on the right track. We need to realign this girl. And I was dating a guy at the time and ended up going to one of his, how do you say that in English? Pièce de théâtre, theater.
Okay. Yeah. Like a movie
Uh,
theater or like a
no,
ballet or something.
no, you know how they do like acting and like
Okay.
a
Yeah.
theater, like
Right.
Broadway
Right.
style. I don't know how to say
Sure. Like a musical
it.
theater or something.
And kind of, yeah. So I was just standing in the audience by myself, and this really like older couple sat next to me, and we just starts talking. At some point, this man, he's like, I don't know, 80 years old, is like, do you know what hot yoga is? Do you know about Bikram yoga? And I was like, what is that? What is the guy talking about? Right? There was like no yoga back then. I think it was like one yoga studio, and it was just like this really weird place that people would be like, don't go in there. It's like
Is
they're
this the
gonna
90s at the time, or
no,
early
well,
2000s?
yeah, I mean, I was 23, I'm 44, so like 21
Okay.
years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, there's like this one random studio where everybody was like, there's like they're guru freaks, and they have like orange robes, and don't
Right.
go in there. It was a Shivananda yoga center. After all, it's like a great place to go, but back then it was just like, you're doing what? My
Yeah.
dad used to say, you're doing yogurt. I'm like, not yogurt, yoga, dad. Yoga.
A lot of people are like,
And
that's against Jesus or something. It's pretty strange.
oh my God, there was so many things, right? It was just like yoga. Anyways, I was like, what do you got? What are you talking about? It's like, you got to try this thing. It's really big in California. My son just opened. It was a Bikram yoga studio. It's like, they just opened one in Montreal. Like, you got to go. And I was like, okay, dude, like, calm down. And he's like, no, I'm going to call up my son, and I'm going to make sure that if you show up, it's going to give you a month for free. And I was like,
Wow.
okay. Anyways, I ended up like, this is how yoga happened to me. And
Mhm.
ever since that time, it literally changed my life, because I stepped into a Bikram yoga studio, which is really not for me, because I'm not someone who can actually work out in the heat, like
Okay.
crazy heat. And that place is like 41 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it's like 108 degrees Fahrenheit, I think.
It's just insane. And you're just like never stopping. And I remember pretty much almost fainting. Like, I was on the floor and they were feeding me orange juice. I was like,
Did you do the whole month?
Well, I ended up going a few times until I realized, I was like, this is literally not for me, because I'm gonna die or something at some point in this class. But I loved the yoga part of it. I just couldn't stand the concept of like the torture and like so much heat. But then that opened my eyes to like saying, oh, well, there's then what is yoga?
Right, right. Before you get
Yeah,
into that, my quick
yeah.
story with yoga, I was senior year. I was getting into track season, and I was doing mixed martial arts, MMA, at the same time going to the gym and lifting weights and doing the running. And I hurt my IT band in my knee, and we
So
were icing it. I was going to the physicians, like zero help, nothing was improving. 2 months, and I was like, this is my senior year. I want to run like a good time. So I was really down about it. And then I started doing Rodney Yee's yoga videos. I did them
right.
every night for 2 weeks, and my knee was completely better. And then I also ended up doing later that summer Bikram yoga. And I was the first one in the studio to do it every day for 30 days. And some days I had to do it 3 times in a day to make up for missing a day or two.
Yes.
And it is you sweat. The guy was like, you're creating an ocean over here. Like, what are you doing? You sweat so much. It is very intense.
It's a great sequence though. I love the sequence.
Yeah,
I'm
it
just
is.
I'm just not physically not made for that heat. I
Right.
don't mind the actual like outdoorsy heat, the natural humidity from the outside, because I mean, I lived in Dominican Republic for many
Mm-hmm.
years, and
Oh, okay.
I mean, I would just spend my entire day sweating basically. I was fine with
Right.
that, just not the concept of being inside. But that's interesting, because Rodney Yee was also one of the first guys that I did yoga with. This shows our age a little bit, because people are like, Rodney Yee, who that?
Yeah. Gaiam.
Yeah, guy. Oh my God,
I like his
interesting.
videos. I think he has great yoga.
Oh my God, I love him and his wife. They're
Yeah.
amazing.
I would like to have him on the podcast. That'd be pretty cool.
I think he would do it.
Yeah. I should reach
I
out.
mean, they're still the bomb. They're
Yeah.
they're still going. Like, I don't know, like
Because he
40
got
years later.
remarried, right? To that woman who's also a yoga teacher.
Colleen,
Yeah. I like her
yeah,
too. She's great.
she's so amazing. Yeah, she used to be a professional model.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she looks good.
Yeah, yeah. I have her book actually. She quite a really, I think it's called Life into Yoga or something. Yeah.
Right. But you can really feel from them that they embody what they're doing. Like, you
Oh,
feel calmer just listening or talking to them. And
yeah.
they don't come across as like hostile in any way. Like, it actually works, I think,
No,
for them.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned injury. I also had a major back problem since I was a kid.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize that yoga was actually going to fix this for me too. But,
Wow.
yeah, it really, like after the whole Bikram's thing, I think it took a few years before other yoga studios started to open up. And then at some point I had moved downtown. And as I was walking to take the subway to go to work, I saw this yoga studio called Sadva Yoga Shala. And it was actually Mark Darby. Darby is a worldwide international known Ashtanga yoga teacher. And I didn't know what the studio was all about. And I stepped in like to do a class. And I was like, holy mother, that was like the most intense thing I'd ever done in my life. And it was not even heated. And I was sweating almost more than in Bikram. It was just like
Wow.
nonstop. But like, and at one point I remember Darby coming in and assisting me in Trikonasana, which is triangle pose. And I felt in that moment, I'm not joking, my entire body from my fingertips down to my toes align in some way. I felt like my whole body was one for the
Hmm.
first time in my entire life. And
Wow.
when I came out of that class, even though I couldn't do a single push-up, and you do about 150 of them in like one class, it's called a primary series. I
Hmm.
came on and I said, this is what I need to do with my life. I
Okay.
knew that that's what I wanted to teach. I knew that that's what I wanted to do. And I've been teaching Ashtanga ever since then, by the way. And I came on, I was like, do you guys have a teacher training? And he's like, actually, there's one starting in 2 weeks. I'm like, okay, I'm signing up. I didn't have the money for it. I was like, I'm going to figure this out.
It's
And I
amazing.
signed up. It was like a year long teacher training with Darby and this other man called, his name is Hart Laser, and he's an Iyengar teacher, which you could not be more opposite.
Okay.
Ashtanga is all about flow, 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 move. We don't really care much about alignment. Just go, go, go. Don't use any
Right.
props. Don't use any blocks. And a Iyengar is like, move your heel 1/8 of a centimeter and then pull it back and like align your third toe with your second finger. It's just
And
like
you're like holding
insane.
those poses till you like want to scream.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was a perfect combo. That's where I learned a lot about healing through yoga and using yoga for like recover from injuries or prevent them and all, so that was my journey into yoga. And that threw me back into this whole thing of like health and wellness and
Right. And you're really about the intensity. I feel as though you're very like a P90X, insanity.
oh
For
yeah,
the
baby.
yoga, you're like just like going hard on it. Usually I'm doing yoga to chill out and calm down. And you're just like give it to me as hard as possible.
Well, actually, it's I like the intensity, but
Mhm.
if you would as a person, I'm probably the most chill person in the world in the sense that I need my space. I really
Same.
savor, like I never had kids, and I think that was a blessing because I never realized how much my space is important to me. Like my peace and quiet is
Right.
so important to me, and walking in nature. So, and because my job is so intense, I'm always caring for everyone else, right? That
Right.
I need those moments to come back and like center in. And I do a lot of meditation. Like I like to walk, in nature in silence. And there's a lot of like calmness,
Right.
but I also enjoy that like intensity of working out or but I'm fully present when I do it. I think it's very different where, some people I think use sports or yoga. And I did that for a long time in my life. I used to use sports and yoga as like a cover up for like managing my stress or my anxiety, whereas now it's just pure pleasure.
Right.
It's
Well,
not.
that makes total sense because what I was getting across is I almost feel that way. I feel as though I do the yoga because I want to chill out because I'm naturally more of like a anxious person, I would say,
Yeah.
or an overwhelmed person if I'm like taking on a lot of projects at once or something. But for you, it's like you almost have that calm demeanor. So it's like, okay, I need some of that excitement in my life. For me, I'm like, I need less excitement and I need more sleep and calming down and chilling out.
Yeah. I mean, Yeah, I mean, I wasn't always like that. Trust me. I used to suffer a lot from panic attacks,
Oh,
anxiety
really?
attacks. Oh my God, it was so bad. It was bad at the point that I had to call the ambulance a few times because I thought I was having a heart attack.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Well,
like going back to like 17, 18 years old and early 20s up into my probably late 20s.
and you were having like heart racing, like what was going
Oh,
on with your panic attack?
everything.
I remember
I would
mine. I
get,
was hyperventilating so much that
yeah,
my whole body was tingling.
yeah, same. And you feel really
Yeah.
dizzy, you feel like you're gonna
Mhm.
faint.
It's scary.
It's very scary. And it was a lot of things that were repressed, right? Anxiety is always something that we repress, we push down.
Right.
And I remember my therapist at the time, you know, and she still is my therapist to this day. Now it's like we talk once in a blue moon when I want like an outside, you know, opinion or whatever.
Hmm.
She's amazing.
She must be good, yeah, to keep her that
Oh,
long.
she's so good. Actually, she's pretty much my age, maybe 2 years older than me. And we met when I was in Dominican Republic. We used to surf together. And at one point I was like, man, you're such a good listener, you know? And I was like, wow, it's so I love hanging out with you. I'm like, you're such a great listener. And then she starts laughing. I'm like, what? She's like, I'm actually a therapist, you know? And I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And so we were friends for a while. And then about 4 years after moving to Dominican Republic, she's actually from Montreal. What are the chances that I met her in Dominican Republic? She was from Montreal. She was just surfing and hanging out there for a bit for a few months. And then when I came back, I was like, I really gotta work on some things. And I called her up. I'm like, I want you to help me out with, you know, with these things. And she's like,
Right.
well, yes, but we can't be friends. So she's like, either you know, we maintain this friendship, I can refer you to someone else, or she's like, or we can work together, but we can't continue with the friendship. And I was like, you know what? I just know that you're the one that's going to be able to help me to overcome so many things like insecurity, jealousy. I was so jealous, so
Really?
possessive,
I could not imagine that with
anxiety.
you. Yeah.
Oh, I'm the complete
You've
opposite
done an amazing
now.
amount of work because you come across as like the opposite of that in every way.
Yeah, you have no idea. Like I've been through hell and back many times. But you know what, AJ, that's what's amazing is that I think I was very blessed to be able to be honest enough with myself and get real. You know, I remember at some point when I came back, that was in 2011, and I said, okay, well, I seem to be the common denominator for all the issues in my relationships because I seem to have the same issues with every single guy, but yet I'm not dating every, you know, I'm dating different guys, different styles, different, you know. And I'm like, well, I think I'm the issue. And it just hit me. I'm like, I think it actually might be me. And that's why I reached out to her. I said, I need to fix this. And I hate it. And I was so aware of my jealousy. I was so aware of my
Right.
insecurities. And I couldn't stand it. And the part that I couldn't stand was the fact that I could not control it. It would just take over me. It's
Okay.
just like this feeling that just takes over.
Yeah,
And anyways, and
it's
yeah,
amazingly
so
frustrating and powerless when you have that
yeah,
feeling because it's like
yeah,
it's almost like with I feel as though sleep is a great example. It's like, okay, I know it's good for me and I want it and I lay there and I don't sleep. And it's like you're so aware of it and you're aware of the good habits and bad habits that complement it. And you kind of have the tools and the when you have the tools and the strategy, it helps so much to be able to actually function. But when you don't, you're kind of like, what's going on? Like, why am I like this? And I feel as though with jealousy, it's kind of similar because it's like you're aware of it, you don't want it, and but it's not as easy as just turning it off. It's usually like there's some
yeah.
steps involved, or there's some things to look at and to go through that. Well, rarely will people ever go through that and overcome that. So kudos to you. It's amazing.
Yeah, you really explained it well. Exactly. It's like, you know, you're like, why am I feeling this way? Why am I acting like a crazy mad woman? But yeah, I can't help it. But I hate this. I don't want to be this. But it's taking over.
Would you
And
ever
at some point, yeah, go
would
ahead.
you be like emotionally aggressive towards the woman or the man? Usually I find that the women get
Oh
mad at
my
the
God, I
women,
was
not the men.
the woman, the
Yeah.
woman. I was so like, the moment a good-looking girl would step in the room, there had to be something wrong with her, and I had to figure it out and make sure
Mm.
that my boyfriend knew about it. You know what I mean? It was like it was like being on a mission to destroy other attractive women. And
You're
you know, I can
hilarious.
laugh about it now, but
Right.
and it's
Well, are you familiar with Doug
yeah.
Lisle? Dr. Doug Lisle, the
Yeah,
psychologist?
we spoke about him, but I
Yes.
haven't really dug into it.
He's
Yeah.
my therapist, my psychologist.
Yeah.
And he talks about the evolutionary standpoint of why we act the way we act with personality. And he said you'll see men to where if they're cheated on, most of the time they're just never gonna they're done with the woman. But if a
Yeah.
woman gets cheated on, she's not very likely to leave. It's very rare that she'll leave. And he goes into the genetic component of how a man, if he's being cheated on genetically, it says that he could potentially be raising someone else's child and putting his resources and efforts
Mm.
for someone else's child because he doesn't know when it comes out that it's his. He can't confirm that. Now we have tests and things, but the woman knows it's hers. So if she has someone taking care or helping her or protecting her, but she knows it's her child, so she's likely to stay given that it's, a reasonable position to be in. And I find that so fascinating because I always see that. I'm like, why aren't the women getting mad at the guy?
I know.
If he's the one like flirting or doing these things, I'm like, why do women stay? I even asked my exes, I was like, if I cheated on you, would you leave me? And they're like, no, we would want to try to work it out and stuff. I'm like, well, you'd be on the fucking curb.
I mean, today that shit wouldn't fly with me, obviously.
Right,
But
right.
you know what it is? I think
Well, you beat
at
your
the
genes there. That's what his whole podcast is about, like overcoming these
yes,
limitations or animal type limitations.
yeah, and I think it comes down to self um self-love at the deepest level, where you feel like you actually don't really need someone else, and whoever is in your life is actually a bonus in your life. It's not like
Right,
you need them.
right.
And I had a guy tell me this at some point. He's like, I need you. And I remember feeling like, ugh,
Yep.
I don't want you to need me. It was just
Right.
like a weird feeling. And as much as I used to be that, I mean, I'm talking like, I don't know, 15 years ago, whatever, my whole, and I remember feeling like, oh my God, that's what they felt like. That's what they must have been feeling. And I don't know if you've ever had these experiences in your life where when you finally let something go and you finally have that enlightenment moment, like all of a sudden you start attracting who you used to be in partners. And then you actually get to experiment what it's like to be you before. And then I start to attract all the like randomly this like relationships where I was shown this, this is how it feels to be jealous or insecure.
Yeah.
This is how it feels to be treated this way. And I remember feeling like, oh, I can't breathe. Like I felt like just the more a person would be clingy to me,
Mm-hmm.
the more I would want to run.
Yeah.
And I find that I've been experiencing all these things, And at some point my therapist was like, she was like making me do these exercises. Okay, well, where do you feel in your body? And I remember thinking, who gives a shit about that? I just want to talk. I just want to talk about my problems. Who cares where I feel it in my body, And then it took months until I was like, well, I don't know. I just feel it here. What does it feel like? Sorry, I'm like spitting all over myself. She's like, where do you feel? I'm like, I don't know. It feels like anger. She's like, yeah, but you're using your head. Just go in your body. What does it feel like? It feels like let's just move on to the next part of the session. And it just took forever until I was able to be like, well, I feel some heat over here. Okay, and now we're starting to get somewhere. Okay, well, I'm feeling like squinching feeling in my heart, or I feel the pounding in my head, and what she made me realize that was that we're so disconnected from our bodies, or we're always in our mind. And by being in your head, you can never let anything go because you're not in the moment, right? Like when you're eating, like when I was like 40 pounds overweight, 2, 3 years ago, I was so numb, I was not even enjoying the experience of what I was eating. So it's like I was always missing it. So I would have to go back for more and more and more, and never dealing with the actual issues that were going on underneath. So it
Right.
was the same thing for me with the anxiety and the panic attacks and all of that. And it was just basically not being on my X, not feeling like I was living my life the way I wanted it. I was living my life the way my dad was expecting me to live it. My mom, like what the world was expecting from me, like you need to get a real job. You need to really, and get married and have babies and like, settle down. Who cares if the guy is really boring? At least he's a good guy. And
Yeah.
it's like you have all these things like pushing on you. And then at some point, my therapist was like, "Have you ever heard about Vipassana Meditation Center?" And I was like, "What's that?" She's like, "It's a silent retreat. You go for 10 days, you sit in silence with yourself. You're not allowed to talk, read, write, work out, do yoga." I was like, wait, I can't do yoga. I was like, you lost me. No talking I can deal with, no exercise. At that point, I was like, are you crazy? And she's like, yeah, you meditate for 11 hours a day. It's by no donation based. You go, it's free. And I was like, that sounds like fucking torture. I'm like, and she's like, you should really do it. She's like, you should do it. She's like, I do it every year. I'm like, ugh. And at some point, I actually finally did. And AJ, that changed my life as much as yoga changed my life. And that's where all the anxiety, panic attacks, everything stopped. And when they were coming, when they were happening, I actually knew what to do with it. I just had to feel it
Okay.
and release it. And that was the most crazy experience of my life. And I've been going ever since, every year.
Can I ask you something about that?
Sure.
So I started reading about meditation probably in 2011, 10 years ago. And I know the first book I read, they were saying how you want to focus on your breath. And I'm like, this is not working. I don't feel relaxed or anything. And
Yeah.
eventually, what did I ended up doing, not even by chance, was I would read. I started reading often, and I would put my finger under the words and I would focus so hard on every word and make sure I didn't blow by it. And I was so focused that it would become intensely relaxed and have the same effects as meditation. And then at some point, I started using what's known as Zen meditation. And
Yeah.
I would sit outside and I would like look forward. And the directions were more like, you don't have to focus on your breath. You don't have to close your eyes or sit a certain way. Just sit down with no back support and just kind of look forward, almost like this, open gaze. And I found as though the thoughts would almost like a movie projector would flow out of my eyes almost. It's like they would be released and I wouldn't be thinking about releasing them. I would just be kind of just letting my brain be on standby. And it's like, okay, we can filter out the garbage that's been processed here.
Yeah.
And I know that my sleep started becoming very deep and my dreams as well. And I can only imagine doing something like an 11-hour meditation at daily at a retreat would kind of give you that somewhat of that effect. Was it similar to that, or was it like you were learning a technique?
Yeah. Well, the feeling of it was similar to what you were describing about being outside and looking forward, but it is a technique, and there's a reason why it is 10 full days. It's actually 12 days in total. So you get there on a Wednesday afternoon, you settle in, whatever, then you have supper, then there's like a little discourse, like a little talk, and then your first kind of like I guess like a little, yeah, like a little talk and explanation, and then you go to bed, and then it starts the next day, and then you're on for 10 straight days, right?
Okay.
um there is a technique. There's a reason why it's 10 days long, and the main reason why you're not allowed to have your phone, they take your phone, your keys away from you. You're not allowed to have books or
Please,
talk to
please
anyone.
take it. I don't
Yeah, I
want
know. I still laugh. I think about your locking box, your box where you're locking your phone in. We need to talk. Anyway, so basically, the reason why they do that, it's because they say we have enough garbage in already, and we repeat so many thoughts day in and day out that if you start reading or talking or exercising, or then you're bringing in even more thoughts, right? So the whole technique of the Vipassana basically is to not change whatever is. So, when you said at the beginning was, well, when I listen or when I pay attention to my breath, I don't feel more relaxed. I still feel the stress. And that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Because when you start to kind of like divert your focus to, like, when you're reading, right? You're reading something, then you're using something outside of yourself to calm down. Or when you're sitting outside and your eyes are open and you're focusing on something, then you're also using something outside of yourself to calm down. Whereas the Vipassana meditation is basically saying whatever shows up, you just let it be. You keep saying you got to be equanimous, whether you're happy or sad or angry or excited, or whatever the emotion comes up, it just is. So the whole technique is to notice what is and to not really pay attention to it. So it starts with, like, the first 2 days, all you have to do is sit down and close your eyes, obviously, and you want to observe the breath as it's flowing in through your nostrils. That's the only thing you want to that's all you do for 2 straight days. And I'm telling you, at the end of one day, you're so exhausted because you're like, oh my God, I can't focus more than 2 seconds on feeling the breath that's going into my nose and out through my nose. Then you start to realize how sick your mind is, how, basically you have no control over your mind, but your mind has taken control over you. And then the third day, he's like, okay, well, let's now bring the focus from the nose down to the tip of your lip. So now you're feeling the sensations on the tip of your lip here and into your nostrils. And then he moves on to, okay, well, now feel your face and then feel the crown of your head. And then they kind of go, okay, feel the right side of your face, the left side of your face. Then you start to do like body parts, feel your right hand, feel your left foot. And then you go and you start to scan the right side of the body, the left side of the body. And then you go from the front of the body, the back of the body. And then by the end of the 10 days, you're basically scanning your entire body from head to toes. And then you finish with Metta Bhavana, which is like a loving compassion meditation where you send out love and healing to other people in the world. And he says, like, if you feel like in your heart that you're not even in that place where you can offer that, then just give it to yourself. So basically, it's not like, it's just a technique that teaches you that no matter what is going on, you're just able to observe and not be a participant. You're just observing. And I had the craziest experiences where I could actually literally feel what was going on in my liver, what was going on in my heart. And then you have all these things that start to pop up. Like at some point, my heart was racing so much, but then you have like 3 hours during the day where you have to just sit there and you're not allowed to move, not even a little finger. No matter what is going on, you're not allowed to move.
Holy crap.
And I remember thinking, I'm probably going to die of a heart attack, but I'm okay with it. It was just the most bizarre feeling. And then at some point, it was just like my entire body, my back was killing me. I couldn't feel my legs anymore. My legs were so numb. I couldn't feel my legs. I felt like I was literally going to die from a heart attack. And I was just sitting there sweating my heart, like, and I was like, well, I'm just going to sit here. And this was on like day 9 or something, or yeah, it was at the end. And I said, well, and then if that's what it's going to be, then that's what it's going to be. I'm just going to die here of a heart attack. And then the moment I refused to give in to all the panic that my body was giving me, because, it was just not accepting the fact that no matter what, I was remaining into stillness. And the ego was trying to do everything in my power to scare me and freak me out so I could move. And I didn't. And it just melted away the moment I was like, well, I guess, and that's what it's going to be. And it just melted away. And I've never had a panic attack ever since.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I think it
Wow.
relates to what you're doing. But I think that sometimes, people use meditation or yoga or sex or food or, they become obsessions to really, put a patch on it instead of just like
Right.
feel it to heal it. Right.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, a lot of times it could be even more stressful doing meditation just
Yeah,
because you're like, why the fuck am I not calmer? Why am I not relaxing? So it can add to that burden. But you're right. All the times where I've been most successful is when I'm like, let's say I'm terrified of something. Back in the
yeah,
day, I was very much a hypochondriac, and I would do all kind, like I'd feel my armpits to see if my lymph nodes were swelling, or I would see like check for lumps or all kinds of things, my neck, or I'd be worried about like some kind of mole or something, and it would freak me out all day. It would ruin my day. And then when I would, like later on in the day, eventually what I would do is like, all right, you're gonna feel how really scared you are, and you're gonna work out the worst case scenario,
yeah,
and it just melts away, like you're saying. It's
yeah.
really
And
that avoidance is
yeah,
what the stress is usually.
yeah. And my question to you, AJ, would be like, so what if you're stressful? So what if you notice that you're stressed out and you're not calmer?
Right.
And that's the state that you're in that moment.
Right.
But instead of saying I'm stressed out, I would say I'm experiencing stress right now in the
Sure.
moment.
Yeah, you
And so,
change your
because
relationship. Yeah.
yeah, like, oh well, I have this stress right now going on. Okay. But you just don't give it any attention. You move on.
Right.
And that really is a game changer. And I help a lot of women deal with um, jealousy now and insecurity.
Through
And
your practice or just
oh, yeah,
advice? Okay. Could
through
you
my
get a little bit
practice.
into what you're doing now in your business?
Yeah. So basically, I ended up going back to school and I studied the kinesiology to deepen my knowledge of personal training and injuries. And then I studied at the IIN, it's called the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York.
Okay.
And it's
Yeah, we
basically
had
like,
talked about that before.
yeah, it's, talking about holistic nutrition. So I got certified as a health coach basically in 2013. And then I kept studying as a naturopath. So I basically work as a personal trainer, yoga teacher, and health coach slash naturopath. So I kind of combine all these three things together with my own life experience as well. And I can see things very clearly now on certain things, right? So especially I think my specialty definitely is weight loss, because I have been on the journey of that. And I also help women and men to reach their goals, whatever that might be, whether it's health or fitness or recover from injuries, because that is my main specialty. When I do personal training, I don't work with athletes. I work with, like, I have 94-year-old clients to like
Wow.
25-year-olds. So like I have a big range, but I help people basically get back into shape or get into shape. And I help them with nutrition and health, and I help them understand and remove the stigmas, because even I learned, you need your protein, you need your carbs, and you need your this. And at some point you realize it's all bullshit, right? I mean, no, we're living beings. Maybe we need living foods, and maybe we need to just stop stressing so much about food.
Yeah.
And my journey, I've been on and off and falling off the wagon and getting back on, because you get this pressure from society all the time.
Right.
And then at some point in March, or no, in May of this year, because I just started doing my doctorate degree right now in naturopathy in January.
Yeah.
And I had it
Congrats.
set
That's
up with,
amazing.
thank you. And I was having a session with my teacher, and I was so stressed out. I was like, you gotta help me out, man. I'm so stressed out about the protein thing. And it's like, even though I know in my heart, but that's what I studied, right? That's what I've been telling my clients for years. I mean, as a health coach, eat your protein and making macros and doing macros. And oh my God, like looking back, I'm like, it was so exhausting. Things
So
are so,
exhausting.
oh my God, and like having people write in all their food and send me pictures of your food.
That's why I love
And
psychology now. It's like I don't even care about talking about food that much anymore.
yeah,
Like
because
it
like
just burns you out at some point.
it really burns you out, you know? And like, yeah, so I just go back to basics, and I accept, and I had that talk with my teacher, and he said to me, he's like, okay, Chantal, he's like, it's like, if you really go in your heart of hearts and you look out into nature, he's like, what do you feel? And he's like, you're a living being. You know, he's like a like 90% raw foodist, you know, himself for his entire life. He studied with Dr. Jensen, Dr. Robert Morris. He studied with all of them. And he's like, I'm like, I feel like I just want to eat whatever I feel like I want to eat.
Yep.
I feel like this whole toxic relationship with food needs to end. And he's like, exactly. He's like, have you ever heard of a protein deficiency in anyone in your whole career? I was like, no. He's like, have you ever seen it on the news besides Africa? I'm like, no. You know, he's like, just go back to simple. Like basically everything that Dan talks about. Anyway, so I start to use this approach now with my clients, you know? So I do a lot of coaching. Basically, I train people and I teach meditation and yoga and I train people. And then there's a side of the business which links into the whole training, which is I do consultations with my clients too, where I make sure that we're, you know, they understand how to create goals and they understand like how to reach them. And I make sure that it's sustainable. I want people to understand like whatever decision you make, whether it's food-based or workout-based or whatever, you know, is this something that you can maintain for the rest of your life? And if the answer is no, then you're not on the right track. And most people are like I used to be, which is overly disciplined. They think they're disciplined, but it's not really discipline. It's actually controlling everything that you can because you're so miserable with yourself that you're super hard on yourself. Be like, I'm going to wake up at 4 a.m. I'm going to do 2 hours of meditation. I'm going to juice. I'm going to do this.
Have you been reading my journal?
Right? And it's like, I'm only going to do this and I'm going to read this book and I'm going to write down my goals. And then you're like, just like listening to that, you're like exhausted. Yeah. But that used to be me. So I know what it's like. And I can see it in every person that I coach now. I'm like, whoa.
Yep.
Like, and they always say you attract people in your life, you attract clients that you can help because, you know, you've been on that journey beforehand. And I really believe that because that seems to be what I attract in my business. So I help them to see and to get off this self-sabotaging journey of like self-hatred. And I was like, if you just start from a place of love and kindness, what would that look like? Would you sleep in maybe when you're tired instead of be like, you still gotta wake up at 5 a.m. and you know, no mercy. And it's like, well, yeah, well then just do it. But there's so much anxiety around not doing anything. There's so much anxiety around not being productive.
Yeah, it's hard when you're not used to it.
One. Oh yeah.
I mean, there's every reason in the book to be distracted from the moment you wake up. You know, like you said, like it's in a simple way of putting it, it's the pleasure trap. It's like everything's so stimulating and exciting. And it's like, you know, let's say I work 12-hour shift. I get home. I don't want to go to bed because it's like, oh, I want to watch a good movie or I want to eat. And then you're up for another 3 or 4 hours when really all you need is sleep. And that connection that you're talking about, like being able, because I'm aware of it. And it's not like I do it perfectly or anything, but it's so interesting how so many people aren't aware of it and they're so stuck in it and they don't even know they're stuck in it. And man, that is a real problem. But the way that you're describing all, right? Yeah, exactly. The way that you're describing it all, it's like, I feel as though that's the healthiest approach. And over the years, because I've been track and field coach, I've been personal trainer. And for a while, I wanted to do like online consultations. I'm not really sure exactly what I want to do at the moment right now, but I feel as though I was working more and more towards that type of approach where it's like, we're not going to put all these limitations because that just, it makes it so hard for people. And I found as though when I look in the past, I never lived that way anyway. When I was successful, I would do good things and then I would still listen to my body and listen to my heart and everything. Whereas as I went on and I found like more of the dogma of all this kind of stuff, the raw foods and things like, I think raw foods are amazing, but you can clearly see that when people are just so rigid about things, they're not getting the best results.
Yeah.
And even yourself, you're not 100% raw, I don't think. And
No.
I think that you have probably some of the most amazing results in our whole group on Dan's Patreon. And I really, really respect you. And I think that you're doing amazing. And I think you're also one of the only people that's so about fitness. And I find that so refreshing because, you know, a lot of people that get into health, it's almost like they feel pretty good, but then they kind of lose their health as a result of caring about health. And I
Right.
don't see that in you in the least.
Thanks, AJ. I mean, I think for me, like, I'm still working, obviously, on so many things, but the thing that really hit me the most was about a month ago when I decided to just stop being so hard on myself for like the whole raw food thing and the whole
Yeah.
thing and the whole this. And when I actually are eating animal protein or whatever, I just woke up one morning and I said, okay, you know what? And this brought up a lot of anxiety actually for me. And I said,
Okay.
I'm just going to eat whatever I want. And I remember feeling so anxious, even like grocery shopping. I was like, should I eat this? Should I not eat this? Should I buy that? Should I not? This is not good. This is good. And and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. And you hear all these things. And I was at Costco about a month ago, and I was like, okay, just chill the fuck out. Like, seriously, it's just food. You're going to be okay. You ate like cheese whiz and crackers your entire, when you were a kid, and you still turn out pretty good.
Yeah, and one meal doesn't destroy your whole body like people paint it to.
Right. And then that's when I realized, I'm like, oh my God, it's the mindset. I'm creating this stress, it doesn't matter what I eat, but I'm so stressful and so rigid about it that no wonder it's not working. Nothing is working. And I decided to just let it go and just say, you know what, I'm going to eat whatever I want to eat, and judge me if you want. I don't really care anymore.
Yeah.
And you know what? Ever since I let that go, just the thought of having animal protein grosses me out. And it's not a mental thing anymore. It's a soul thing. Yeah. And am I going to eat it again? Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to put like I'm forever going to be like this. Like I'm done with these titles, but now I'm just eating as I go. Like yesterday I had I did my workout. I'm in like a little protein shake, which is bananas and whatever. And that's all I had basically until like 5 o'clock at night. And I was not thinking about food, focusing on food. I was at a funeral yesterday, obviously, so that took a big part of my afternoon, but I was not craving food or thinking about it. Whereas before, that's all that, my whole energy was going into that. It was not sane. It was not healthy. And now, like, I even dropped like another 3 pounds with not even trying anything. And I was like, wow, this is actually working. When you stop focusing on it and you just listen to your body, I'm like, well, this morning I just want to have some watermelon. And then maybe tomorrow I'm going to have, I don't know what. Like, I haven't eaten anything yet. And I don't know what time it is, but, and I'm just having my green tea and I'm happy with that. So I think there's like so much stress around food free. And and you got to do this and you got to do that. Like, why? And in the yoga world, how dare you do like lifting weights? How dare you? It's like you're only supposed to do yoga and do your chants every morning and learn Sanskrit, And I'm like, why? Why can't I do both? It's like such like dogmatic society that we live in. You're either raw food or you're not. You're vegan or you're not.
And it creeps in.
You're not.
It creeps in on every avenue. I mean, you have spiritual people saying like, oh, you don't want to do this. That's because you're not like awakened enough. And it's like, fuck you. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know me.
Exactly.
And people do that all the time. And that's what on Hungry People, that's exactly the opposite of what I want to do. I want people to feel comfortable and confident in who they are and what they, no one chooses necessarily how they were brought up or how they feel in that moment. I mean, we have, strategies and things to like help that, but people are who they are. And I don't think people become better by being shamed for who they are or what they think, at least. Like, what are your honest thoughts? Because there's plenty of things that I think are wrong, about myself, but I still think that I still do them. And I think that's
Yeah.
fine. People don't have to live in complete alignment all the time. I mean, it's impossible. And the more we beat ourselves up, and the more, especially if other people do it for you, it's like, yeah, that's someone you probably don't want to be around.
Yeah. And don't you agree, AJ, that the people that you love the most are the people that are most awkward and just themselves?
100%.
And for me, I'm always like, oh my God, I admire this person because they're so fucking weird and they're so random.
I love it.
And you just admire that. And what is it that we really admire? We admire the fact that they're themselves.
Yeah.
They're authentic. We're attracted to this authenticity. I know for me, I remember like a friend of mine sent me this video from Dan about 2 years ago on juicing. And I remember like laughing the whole time because I was like, this guy's a nutcase. I was like, who the heck is this guy? You know?
Right.
I was like, I love him already. And I love the fact that he doesn't really care. He lives on his own little planet, and that's just who Dan is. And that's what I love about Dan. And I think that's why I click so much with you. It's because in our conversations, we're just so brutally honest, I'm like, yeah.
It's so great.
Just like, it's so like, it's just what it is. There's no like, I'm trying to look, and it makes you feel very like unrelatable to people when you're so freaking perfect all the time. And I get the most like positive feedback where I'm like goofing around, dancing, singing, not giving a care about what I'm doing in my stories. Like my clients are writing me, they're saying, God, you're so freaking funny. I'm swearing on there. And it's like so like very like not typical of like a yoga teacher or like a naturopath. And it's like, but that wouldn't be me. And that's what I was doing before.
Yeah. And I'm attracted to that type of personality because it's like you're comfortable with what you want to say. You can tell the difference between someone who's like, let's say they're making a podcast and they curse because they think it's going to be like cooler or more relatable. And then when it's like actually just comes in naturally, and vice versa. You could see people are trying to hold back cursing because it's like their audience, but they really just want to release so many F-bombs or whatever. And it's because I feel as though we just live in a time where everyone's walking on eggshells on what you can say. And that to me isn't good. I think that every single person should be respectful of other people and accommodate to someone else's emotional, maybe and physical needs. But to walk around on eggshells is one of the worst things I think anyone could do.
Yes. You know what? I think the perfect quote, maybe to close this in or whatever. I know we said we're going to do 20 minutes and I told you this is going to go on for 5 hours, but I don't know if you know who Bob Proctor is.
I do.
So he's been a mentor.
He's the secret guy, right? Or no?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And at some point he says that one of his mentor, I think it was Earl Nightingale, said to him.
I love Earl Nightingale. I listened to him yesterday. I know.
He's amazing. That's why I have all of his books here. That's why when I saw your little thing, I was like, and and Bob Proctor goes, the quote that changed my life was when I'm not sure if it's Earl Nightingale or who, but he said, when I heard him say this, and he said, if I want to be free, I gotta be me. Not the me I think you think I should be. Not the me my wife thinks I should be. If I want to be free, I gotta be me. So I better find out who me is. And I have goosebumps everywhere.
I do too. Can you see?
Yeah, me too. I'm like,
that's proof right there.
And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God. And I think that sums it up. I think we're all here with our own unique goofiness and gift. And if we can only remove those layers and return to just simply, it's just so simple that we think it can't be that simple, but it is.
Yeah.
Just be you and stop chasing. What is my thing? What am I supposed to do? Stop chasing and just be. And just do what you enjoy to do. Like you're doing your podcast because it's what you love to do. You're not doing it because, maybe I have a 5-year plan of like, this is where I want to be. right? And
Right.
I think if we just keep it simple and just let the light that we have inside of us shine, then I think you've made it. You know, that's what life is all about. You know, I was there at a funeral yesterday and I was like, holy shit, that's what it is. It's just those small moments. It's the little moments in every single day that pile up to be your life. So why don't you try to be you a little bit more?
I
Yeah.
love it. I think that's an amazing place to stop.
Let's stop it and let's go see Dan Demand on Daily Video Club.
Yeah, in an hour we'll be seeing Dan on Zoom. But
Yeah.
Chantal, I absolutely love you. You have some of the best energy that I could ever be around. I feel as though the more time, if I were to spend more time with you, the better I would become just better and better as a person. I'd be more connected to myself, what I should be doing with my life, what I should be eating, or maybe I should just be calming down and be getting a little more fit. But I know that your energy just actually makes me feel more alive. And I want to thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming on here. I think everyone's
Uh,
really going to like this one. And I'm also going to put like your info down below. I don't know if you have a website, but I
sure.
definitely can put like your Instagram and things like that. You could
Yeah, I'll
also
send
just
you my
message
info
me.
after.
Yeah, that would be great. And I'm looking forward to sending this when it's posted to the Children of Light as well, so everyone in our Dan group can see it. I think they're going to get a kick out of it as well.
Thanks, AJ. I feel the same, man. Whenever I talk with you, my heart just like, ooh, I feel happier every time. So thanks so much for having me on. Hungry
My pleasure.
people.
You definitely are a hungry person.
Yeah, baby. Hungry for life.
Exactly. Okay.
Thanks, AJ. I'll
Yeah.
see you
Thank you.
soon.
Take care.
Bye.